Hi, brothers and sisters. It's Mike from We Are the Saints. It's been a while since I've been on live, but we're trying to get back into the swing of things now that the summer is over and everybody has a little more time. And the Lord has put this on our hearts to do some more recordings and live streams when we can. And today it's just a great day to praise the Lord and talk about what the Lord is doing in our lives. Uh, like the like the live stream says, we have an awesome show today. A great testimony that's coming up by a young man of the U.S. I posted his video of his testimony um, in in our playlist on the channel, but I was fortunate enough to be able to get in contact with Zach, and he really wants to share his testimony, and there's more to it that I could just tell there was some other things that I had some questions that I wanted to ask him. So, and I'm sure you will too when you hear it. But this is a, an- a prime example of what the world is going through right now, and he represents a large number of people who are searching for all the right things just in all the wrong places. We have this desire to search for love, to be loved, and to love one another. We just don't understand how that plays out, and we don't know that until God comes into our lives. Then we realize this is what we've been missing, and it's a incredible redemptive story. Um, I'm so looking forward to talking with Zach, and afterwards, when it's over, I'm hoping that Zach will, or actually, he's said he was going to go onto the Discord. So if anybody has any questions, if anybody um, is looking for some insight to whatever they're going through in their life, maybe it resonates with them, and yeah, we'll just we'll talk with them afterwards on the Discord channel. So hopefully we'll be able to put the link to the Discord on the um, yeah, in the comment section so that if anyone doesn't have it, and yeah, then you can link on. It will also later on we'll post this. So if you see this later and you watch this live at another date, you'll see it in the post as well. And then you can just join Discord, and if Zach's on it. So if you're interested in speaking with him, he'll take your questions. So without further ado, um, I want to bring Zach on, and let's have a chat.
How's it going, Mike?
Zach, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you. I know it's early where you are at, so thank you for getting up and you know just sharing your testimony. I mean,
Oh,
it's
absolutely.
it's going to be so impactful. I have so many questions that I want to ask, so I think we should probably just jump right into it. I've watched your original video, the one that you made, okay? And I was totally completely impacted by it. It reminded me a lot of my own life and in certain
Mhm.
aspects, not other aspects, but um and the Lord spoke to me right away and was like, this is like a prime redemptive story that needs to get out. And you being a younger man, there's a lot of young people in this world that are lost. They are, they're walking in darkness. They think they have the answers, and then all of a sudden, years go by.
Oh, yeah.
Life has its struggles. Life just kind of hits you like a freight train, and all of a sudden, you say to yourself, "How did I get here? What? How did this happen?"
Yeah.
Right? Let's go back to like a little bit of the beginning. You know, if you want to start from when you were younger, go ahead and
Yeah. So, absolutely. I just want to take a second to say that this is all because of Jesus Christ. None of this, and I mean, none of this is because of me. I tried my own ways. I tried doing it myself, and none of it worked. But so when I was a kid, um, you know, it started off, I mean, it was just a very, very average family. You know, mom and dad were
Yeah.
happy. I was happy. You know, loved playing outside, drawing with chalk on the driveway, things like that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then we
Were
get
you into like any
to,
activities like sports or anything like that?
yeah, I was in
Sports
T-ball,
or okay.
T-ball, flag football, stuff like that. And I was kind of in the middle in that age of trying to find, you know, something that I like to stick with to kind of bring in with me to school. You know, if it was basketball or baseball, and just take it in with me through the school years.
Right.
And but we get into 2007, and then all of a sudden, mom and dad, they don't, you know, they don't love each other anymore. You know, and as a kid,
Right.
I'm about 10 years old, and as a kid, I can't figure that out. You know, I don't know why I'm hearing one thing from my mom, one thing from my dad. Mom's with a new man. You know, things are weird. We're looking for a new house. We end up getting an apartment. We live in a small town here in Bluegrass, Iowa, by the way, just so you know.
Okay. All right. Okay.
So we get into this smaller apartment, me and my dad, and they're battling for custody in court. And like I said, I'm hearing one thing from my mom, one thing from my dad. And my mom
Yeah.
kind of, for a little bit, for I want to say maybe anywhere from like 4 to 6 months, from what I can remember, he was gone. He was just kind of out of my
Ah,
life and my sister's life. And, you know, it made a huge impact on the two of us because at such a young age like that, you need your parents. You need your parents, and they need, you know, they need to be there, you know.
right.
And, you know,
Yes.
if they didn't want to be with each other anymore, you know, then, you know, it would have been one thing if they would have separated, but my mom had not just kind of left, you know, for months on end. So that kind of messed with our minds a little bit there. Yeah. And then,
Yeah.
so my dad ends up getting full custody of us. I know that. And then something happens. My mom, she gets joint custody. They end up fighting it out in court. Something happens, and she
So
picks me up.
you and your sister are probably wondering how how can two people not love each other anymore? You know, like
Basically,
you
yeah,
love them both, but
hmm,
how is it that this isn't the same anymore? And that's yeah, that's it's very tough on kids. I know.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 100%. That's
Yeah.
that was basically something that, you know, we kind of, well, at least said I personally dealt with. I mean, up until my later teenage years, you know, until I kind of started to wrap my head around it. But yeah, fast forward a little bit. You know, mom comes back into the picture, and my sister's old enough. She's 5 years older than I am, so at this point, she's probably about 15 years old or so.
Mhm.
So she's legally here in the U.S. She's able to, you know, basically make her own decision whether or not she wants to go, you know, with my mom, whether or not she wants to go with my dad. If she doesn't want to go with my mom, she doesn't have to. If she
Right.
doesn't want to go with my dad, she doesn't have to. So she
Right.
decides to stay with my dad full time, and not get involved with my mom because this new guy that she is with, you know, he cheated on my dad with this guy, and she's since still married to him. Um, but I didn't have a say. So, like I said, she would get me Mondays, Wednesdays, and every other weekend during the week. But there would be sometimes during the weeks or even just the weekend where I just didn't want to go over there because um this man, he was drinking a lot, like a lot. And when he would get drunk, you know, he would get aggressive, and not necessarily towards us, but always towards her.
Right.
And I have some step siblings as well. Um, that I don't really talk to them much anymore because I've cut myself off from that side of the family. But
Right.
like for instance, I remember one time I had to have been maybe 11, 12, 13 years old. He's got a little putting range that he would keep in his living room, like a couple of golf clubs and stuff. And they were drinking one night, and I remember we would go through the back door through the house, and as soon as you got through the back door, you're right in the kitchen. And
Mhm.
then from the kitchen, you can basically just go straight to the basement, right? And I just remember, I mean, it was late at night. It was like 11, 12 o'clock at night. Me and my stepsister were sitting on the couch, and my other stepbrother, he's upstairs doing something. And I just remember hearing all this crashing. And I go into the kitchen, and my stepdad's I mean, they're belligerent drunk, and he's throwing ceramic plates and cups at my mom from up on top of the stairs to the basement. And she's in the basement. He's sitting there just throwing plates and cups at her. And I remember going after him with a golf club when I was a kid. I told him,
Wow.
like, you need to leave, you need to leave, you need to leave. And he left. He did. But seeing things like that, you get angry. I started to get
That's
angry.
right. That's how
I
you
started to
started
get
getting
angry.
angry.
Yeah, I
Yes.
started to get angry. And mom, my mom, she was kind of playing it off like, oh, that's just how people argue. It's so normal. It's so natural. I was being
Yeah.
gaslit as a kid, completely. And there's some other situations and instances where that's happened. Um, so
And
I
it's the
started,
devil's playground.
oh,
And the devil likes
100%.
to work into the minds
Yeah.
of not just young people, but people in general when you see that kind of abuse.
Yeah,
Or,
100%.
the devil jumps in there and takes control.
Mhm.
And, yeah, yeah, I understand.
And those seeds of bitterness, I mean, I vaguely remember starting to feel that bitterness for the first time. And again, like, I'm the kind of person, I don't know if you've ever felt this before, but you're angry that you're angry. Like,
Yeah.
you're like, you don't wanna be like this, you don't wanna be upset all the time, and that's what I remember the majority of my life being, was just, like, upset.
Well, I
And
it's funny you say that because I remember something similar to that was, um, whenever I would get sad, that sadness would turn to anger because
yeah.
I was tired of being sad all the time.
Yeah, right. Right.
You know what I mean? Like, you're
You wanna
seeing all
feel
this
some,
stuff.
yeah.
Right, right? So, like, I was tired of just being sad, so that sadness would then turn to anger, and that's what kinda
Mm,
happened to me over the years. Yeah. So, yeah,
right.
that's the devil's playground, that's what he does, right?
100%. Yeah, it really is. And um I again, being in a small town, there's not much to do, especially as a kid. And I started to get in with I guess a smaller group of kids around here, and we were bored kids. Wasn't the best group to be hanging out with. And at this point, like I said, I'm starting to get angry. I'm starting to, not understand things. I'm starting to think in my head that, is this because of me? Is this because of me? And then me and my sister, she took it very harshly too. She spent a lot of her time, majority of her time, in her room.
Yeah.
She's very angry as well, very, very visibly depressed, and so was my dad during this time. And I'm talking from 2007, all the way up to 2012, 2013 or so.
Mm,
But me and her would get in, fights every single day, and they were brutal fights, really bad fights. We're throwing things at each other. I was destructive. I was very, very destructive. I would steal and lie so much. I would lie. Oh man, I was like, I was lying about my lies. Like I said in that testimony video, like, it was like I was
mm,
lying about my lies, and I couldn't keep track of my lies. It was just like lie after lie after lie. And I was stealing money. I was stealing anything that looked good. To me, I was stealing from stores.
right,
I was,
right.
again, 11,
Yep,
12, 13, 14. Actually 14 is kind of where it ended. Then I started getting into smoking weed, and me and these guys were running around town. We got a scrap yard here in town, and we break into the scrap yard and just do all kinds of, just run around crazy, light fires. We loved to light fires. We were just like infatuated with
yep,
setting things on fire, you know.
yep,
And
yep, I do.
so we started to get into the whole weed phase. And I remember my dad's a truck driver, semi driver over the road.
Okay,
And back then he would be gone. He had a dedicated route, so he would drive from Iowa here to Chicago every single night. So he'd be gone for, I don't know, anywhere from 8 to 12 hours, and me and her would be alone and just do a bunch of crazy stuff. And there was one
right.
time he left $50 for me and my sister, because he's gonna be gone on like an extended kind of job, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he left us $50. I took the $50 and we were supposed to use that $50 for food. I took that $50 and got weed with it. I can't remember
Yeah.
how much it was, but I got caught with that very, very quick. I got the little bag of weed and I was like, look at me, I'm looking for validation from people,
Right. Right.
100%.
Yep.
I'm trying to find because I'm not finding that in my family. I'm not
Right.
finding that anywhere. So it's like,
You're
if
seeing it
I
in the
can be the
world.
weed guy, yeah, 100%. If I can be the guy that you know, puts a smile on everybody else's faces, but sacrifices myself, for that, then so be it. I'll do whatever I can. And I honestly I never even really liked to smoke weed. I just it didn't sit well with me. I would always get really anxious.
Mhm.
So I literally just did that. I just spent that $50 just to do it, just to be cool and to feel validation from other people. And I got caught with that. My grandparents took me in for a little bit, and I kind of cleaned up my act pretty good. I mean, I'm about 14 years old, so I'm in the eighth grade at this point. And I start to clean up my act a little bit. I start finding new people to hang around with. I get into track. I start running track,
Mm.
and I don't know necessarily. Oh yeah, I also the gym was a big thing for me. Lifting weights was a big
Okay.
thing for me to really help me, kind of deal with some of this pain. But I kind of thought of this last night. For me, it's like okay, if somebody pinches your arm in the same spot over and over and over again, it starts to go numb.
Mhm.
All that pain
Mhm.
eventually, all that pain eventually at some point turns to numbness. And so I started to go numb. I just flat out, I figured out how I could throw everything to the back of my head subconsciously. I could stop
Right.
thinking about it and I could put on a
Right.
face. And I got really good with putting on a face. Like really, really good at it. Um, when I was just a ticking time bomb for sure. I didn't do well in school whatsoever. I still wonder sometimes. I might have some kind of ADHD. I don't know. I really don't know. I'm cool. I'm
Mhm.
doing good.
Mhm.
But but yeah, did wasn't doing well in school at all. Bouncing back and forth between house to house. Again, my teenage years between my mom and my dad's house. Uh, not doing well at all in school. And just a lot of moving around. I like to this day I struggle with being in the same spot for too long. Like
Right.
I'm used to just
Mhm.
wanting to move around, wanting to, you know, find a new spot to lay low, just, you know. And me and my stepfather, we do not have a good relationship. I wish nothing but the best for the man. I pray for the man. But he he has since stopped drinking. I know that. My mom still drinks. She's got a problem with it. Me and her, our relationship is being mended, I guess you could say. Like I
Mhm.
said, the gaslighting is off the charts. There was one time when I was 16 years old, um, I was with my girlfriend, and he told me to be home at 11 o'clock at night. It was Saturday. I showed up 5 minutes late, and I walk inside, and they're drinking. I mean, he's belligerent again. And he goes, "Well, I think you love your mom, but you got a funny way of showing it." And that just like set off something in me for some reason. And he was like, "Oh, you wanna?" He was provoking the situation as
Mhm.
to a 16-year-old. He's a 50-year-old man provoking that to a
Mhm.
16-year-old, and he ended up charging after me. Um, and his son had to basically defend me against him, his own son. You know, he had to
Yeah.
pin him up against the wall, and yeah, it just really brutal. So that stuck with me. That right there, actually, that situation right there alone did more damage to me, I think, than probably 7 years of everything else that he's done, dealing with the divorce. I mean, it really messed with me pretty good. And again, I started to so I didn't let me get back into my later teenage years here.
Mhm.
Um, because of those things, I despised alcohol. Hated it. I hated the idea of it. I didn't want anything to do with it ever.
Right.
I'm also seeing, friends friends that are starting to get into that scene, later in our later high school years. And I'm seeing all the cheating, all the stupid reckless driving, all this
Mhm.
crazy stuff, all the drugs that people are starting to do. I didn't want anything to do with it. But I decided as a 17-year-old on my birthday, my buddies held a little gathering for me and one other friend of mine who was also celebrating a birthday. And I don't know. I guess I just something kind of caved in me, and I was giving
Mhm.
into peer pressure, 100% gave into peer pressure, which
Right.
is a very big deal. I 100% still seeking validation from other people, wanting to be that guy, wanting to
Yes.
be, somebody that I wasn't, and somebody that I knew I didn't want to become. Um, I started drinking, and I was actually kind of nervous to actually get drunk for the first time. I remember because I thought that you just flat out didn't know what you were doing, and that kind of freaked me out. Like you just kind of were just out there
Right.
and on autopilot or something,
Right.
you know?
You black out
And
and you don't know what's going on.
yeah,
Right. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And so I was a little bit nervous to get drunk, but I ended up doing it, and the shoulders started to relax, and I was like, "Okay, this is great." And, socially, I felt so much higher. I came out and I could just, I felt like I could fully be myself for once,
Right. Right.
which is a big thing. And, so
So the
that base
alcohol did the alcohol take a hold of you then?
I wouldn't say, well, yeah, I would say that it tried to, at that point, it really tried to. That was the first time I ever got drunk. Um, I do remember that I kept getting a hold of my friends because I kept wanting to drink.
Mhm.
But I think it kinda got, I think I kinda slowed it down a little bit for a couple of years, until I was about 18 to 20. That's when it was just full bore because I found I got in touch with some other friends, and, 20, 21 years old, going to bars, stuff like that.
Yep.
That's when it
Yep.
really started off. And actually, when I get into this relationship with this girl, actually, that was a big thing. So
Mhm.
yeah, I
So was she a drinker as well?
no, well, she was she was from Colorado, so she was
Oh,
mostly about smoking weed, mostly. But she was going through a lot of very traumatic events herself as
okay.
a child that she was dealing with, and I think she would
Ah,
rely on psychedelics, weed, mushrooms, Palo Santo, ayahuasca, things like that. And she moved here to Iowa, and from Denver to this small town in Iowa, it's a huge. I mean, geographically, it's so much different. There's not much to do here versus
right.
Colorado. And she's dealing with her own things, a really bad breakup, and he started to get into drinking. We started to get into it together. She had a friend that was an alcoholic for sure. She was struggling with it,
Ah,
and
okay.
yeah, that was also her roommate too in this apartment that they shared. And I kind of just started to partake in that too because I was already previously drinking with some other buddies, and that's when it really started to go downhill. I was dabbling in cocaine, so um, I'm trying to think. Okay, so I think I was 20 or 21 years old freshly when I first tried cocaine, and
Mhm.
for some reason it didn't hook me then. I loved it, I really did, but it didn't hook me. Didn't get its hooks in me, I guess, like
Right.
it did later on. So I'm with her. I am with this girl who I love very much. She is still a very good friend of mine, and uh, you know, she's been forgiven for. We all make mistakes, anyways. Found
Right.
out, she cheated on me about 2 or 3 years into the relationship, and, I mean, it destroyed me. I mean, I'm looking at this girl like she is my best friend. I wanted to marry this girl, and we're having a lot of fun together, we're drinking. I mean, we are drinking, like,
Mhm.
almost every single night, which is ridiculous, and it put a huge strain on us too. We're living together at this point. So I try to push that back, you know? I don't
Of
know how to deal
course.
with my problems, and a lot of people
Yeah.
don't. A lot of people
Well,
don't.
no, because you've got that fight or flight response, right? From all the
Yeah.
trauma when you were younger. So when you have someone that you feel loves you and then you get betrayed, it's like here's a cycle all over again, right?
Mhm.
And then
Mhm.
you can't deal with that.
Yeah.
That's life. That's how life gets you when you think
Mm.
when we listen to the lies of the enemy, he says, "Oh, well, once you get around this corner, things will be better. Once just have a little bit of this and just drink a little bit of that, you'll be fine." And then we
Mhm.
realize it never ends. It just continually gets worse and worse and worse.
Amen. Amen. Like, all you need to do is just feed the flesh. That's all you gotta
Yeah.
do is just feed the flesh, and everything will be just fine, everything will work out perfectly.
Right.
Oh, man. Yeah, so
So
I
yeah,
I
so you
mean,
broke
yeah.
up. Did you have to leave at that point? Did you just take off?
No, well, I wanted to, but I was so drawn to this girl that I just, like, we ended up trying to work it out, and that's really
Right.
what blew me up 100%. So it was a buildup of things throughout my life, things that I didn't deal with, things I wasn't dealing with, and that's why it's so important to talk to somebody. I didn't
Right.
I would try. There would be times when, me and her would be drinking, I would try to open up to her about something, and it would get brushed off. That's one thing that, like, really, really I still struggle with to this day with this world is nobody wants to listen to each other. Nobody wants to sit there and actually have a good conversation. Nobody wants to
Right.
take the time of day to actually and it doesn't
Listen.
mean like yeah, just like, listen to somebody and try to put yourself in their position for a second, and you don't always have to say something. You can
Right.
just the ministry of presence is it's real. Just be there. Just
Yep.
be there for the person. It's so important. Well, I didn't really again, I didn't have that, anywhere where I was. I actually didn't have any friends. I had to cut all my old friends off because that's a whole other story, but I had to cut
Right.
them off primarily because they didn't agree with who I was with and, this and that.
Right.
So yeah, I'm trying to muscle through this. I'm trying to kinda lay to rest what she did, and we're trying to work this out. And every time I would try to bring it up to her, which I think is fair, I think it's fair in a relationship. To be able to bring up some things and hash some things out every once in a while if you're feeling a little bit insecure about something, it's very important
Absolutely. Yes, it
to
is.
do,
Yes.
And
Yep.
she would just, well, it happened so long ago, you're still dwelling on that, this. I'm like, I don't care if it's 10 years from now.
Yeah.
It, this is gonna take me, we're gonna work on this. If you don't want to work on this, then we'll be done.
Yeah.
So yeah, a year later, a year after I found out she cheated on me on Mother's Day. We went on this one last really nice trip together to this place called Galena, Iowa, or Illinois. I can't remember. Very beautiful place. We went and had this really nice dinner together, and I don't know how I knew, but something in my gut at that time was telling me that this was going to be the last time that we were ever going to share this together. That's when
Right.
my life just exploded.
Yeah,
In
and that's
January.
that's tough. Oh, man. There's
Mhm.
no and I'm not trying to, like, dig into this too much, but I remember someone told me this or I heard it through another Christian, and they said, like, the, um, the pain of, like, losing someone you love, or not no, a heartache, that's what it is. A heartache can be one of the most difficult thing like, your bones can break, but they'll heal, and we know it's in a certain period of time. You break a bone, 6 weeks, you're pretty much taken care of. 8 weeks, you're back up and running, and 12 weeks, you're back to normal like you never were. With heartbreaks, it can be years, and you don't know how you're gonna get over it. That's
Mm-mm.
it's the hardest thing. The heart
It
is the hardest thing to
really
recover.
You are so, so right with that, and, like,
Right.
all this time from since I was a kid up until this point, sitting across from her, it's just like all this heartbreak, and I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't know how to heal it. I didn't
Right.
The only way that I could feel normal was drinking at this point,
Yeah.
and so we get back.
Which would numb the pain
Well, yeah.
so that you could deal
Mhm.
with it. That's the only way you knew how to deal with things, right? Was to try and numb it and try and
Yeah,
bury it deep
actually,
down inside.
for me personally, the crazy thing is, I would also deal with numbness by itself. Like I would deal with numbness even without drinking. So the drinking would actually help me feel something sometimes. It would help me feel happy or higher,
Ah,
and I would
right,
look to that
right.
because I wanted to feel that. If I wasn't under some kind of substance, I like almost 24/7. I seriously, I couldn't feel. It's like I couldn't feel anything most of the time, or it was just in immense pain, and
Yeah,
there would be times where, I mean, it was really hard for me to eat. Like my appetite, like the stress. Oh, the stress.
right.
It's brutal.
Yeah,
Just so brutal.
are you the type of person that when you get stressed, you can't eat?
Yeah, I
I
100%.
I'm the same way.
I
I've been like that most of my life. So,
uh-huh.
I find that one of the reasons why I don't eat breakfast is because, if I look towards what I have to do that day, sometimes even now, and not so much as it was before in the past, but most and sometimes now, but definitely in the past, I could not eat before noon because the thought of going to work and what was waiting for me there was too much for me to handle. Like, it was too much anxiety, and so
Mhm.
I don't think I ate breakfast for 20 years of my life.
Really.
Yeah, I
I
didn't.
actually know what you're
I wouldn't
talking
eat till
about.
lunch. Yeah, I wouldn't eat till,
Yeah.
like, lunch.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
it's a whole different world, that stress, and for some reason, it really just affects, certain people differently, I feel
it
like. Like
does. It
like
does.
me and you, probably.
Did you find that, like, through all that, you felt like that there was, like, this emptiness, like, you just needed to fill this whatever this void was, and
Mhm.
if you could just find out what that is, because I had that because when I was younger, I had, a Christian upbringing, so I had, like, sort of like this
Right.
background of
Mhm.
Jesus,
Mhm.
and I find myself I tell people I was really fortunate that my parents raised me in a Christian home because whenever I would get in situations, I would hear this voice. Now I know it was the voice of the Lord saying, "I can help you with this. Like, I can deal with this for you, but you've got to let me do it." Like, because the Lord will not force himself on anybody. It's your
Right.
free will. You have to have free will. You have to let him do it. And then I would break down. I would pray and say, "Lord, get me out of the situation." And then he would, and then I would go back into my life again.
Wow.
That was a cycle for me. It was like I would
Really?
brush it off as if it's just a coincidence. It's like I'm putting this out there and, oh, it just happened to work, but it was really a coincidence. It wasn't really, and that happened so many
Wow.
times in my life that eventually when I did have my encounter, if you listen to my testimony when I had my encounter, that's when it all kinda came together and made sense. It's like, wow, he's been with me my whole life. I didn't want to recognize it. I just
Didn't
had
wanna
that
see it.
resistance. Yeah.
You know what? That's you bring that up, actually, and so, throughout my entire life, I always in my head, I'm like, I have some pretty good luck, you know? Well, now I'm looking back on it and I'm like, "That was
Yeah.
Lord,"
Yes.
there's no karma, there's no luck, it's all Jesus, it's all the Lord, it's all
It's all
God,
God. It's all
100%.
God. And all the nasty things that happened to me was from the devil. Anything that ever happened to me was because God put it there for me, and I
Amen.
just didn't recognize it, or I
Yeah,
wouldn't recognize it. One of the 2. I
yeah,
wouldn't either, or I didn't want to, or I didn't wasn't smart enough to recognize it. One of the 2. So,
yeah,
but so then you really got heavily influenced on the harder side of drugs. So it
yes.
morphed to that, did it? Okay.
Yeah, so first for me, like I said, I was dabbling with cocaine up until this point. After that trip, directly after that trip, I basically went full bore into it. Now, when I say that, it's not like I wasn't doing cocaine, like throughout the days or when I was sober. It was only when I was drinking.
Mhm.
I was drinking every single night, basically. Um, and cocaine is a very expensive drug, very expensive. Um, so how do I? Okay, let me kind of get centered here again. So I something just kind of snapped in me. I don't know what it was. I couldn't get this out of my mind that I couldn't trust her. I no longer could feel like I could trust myself. There's, suicidal tendencies, within me definitely that
Hmm.
I would try to push down, and it just blew up from all this stuff, from pushing all this garbage down and not getting rid of it.
Hmm.
It festers in you, and it will make you do things that you don't want to do.
Right.
And um, I remember I do want to touch on something too. So I was looking for new age practices. I was in new age crystals,
Right.
psychedelics. I wanted to try ayahuasca. I did not grow up with God. I didn't know who he was. I didn't know. I mean, I knew who Jesus was. I think everybody knows who Jesus is. To
Right.
me, he was just the man on the cross that died. I don't know what necessarily
And you
for.
don't
I
know why. Right. And you don't
No,
understand the significance. Right.
no, I didn't understand, that we've all fallen short of the law, and that he paid the price that I deserve, yeah, for eternal life.
Right.
That I didn't
Right.
understand. I didn't understand that. So I was looking for something. There was a hole in my heart, like we were just talking about, but it was a God-sized hole that only he can fit. And
Right.
I was taking mushrooms with her. We were, practicing all these her uncle's a practicing shaman, all these things. And again, I wanted to try ayahuasca, go on one of those ayahuasca retreats out in Florida. I wanted to do that so bad. And um, this is the crazy thing, is the more that we started to dabble with these things, the more that we started to, like, she was in Wicca. It was called
Okay.
Wicca, which is like,
Yes.
you
Yep.
know, the, she had this box with these crazy symbols on it, and she would meditate to source, basically. And there was some of those things, there were some things that she would do. I would kind of look at it and be like, okay, this is, even for me, I was just like, this is a little bit like
It's out there.
ritualistic. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And but I would still, take psychedelics because I'm hearing about how good these psychedelics are for opening up your mind, for helping you heal traumas and this and that. I'm like, oh, this is going to be
Right.
a cure all for me. This will be a cure all for me,
Right.
throughout this time of me and her being together. And yeah, no, nothing worked. And I started to notice there was a lot of really creepy things that would happen to us sometimes in that apartment. Sometimes I would wake up and I would see figures like kind of off in the distance, like black figures. And then there's one time
Uh,
specifically, I woke up in the middle of the night and I opened my eyes, and I know what I saw. I opened my eyes and there's a figure there, and instantly just disappears, like just instantly. And
right.
there was just like all kinds of crazy things happening to us, and our lives are falling apart. And I do believe that that is what happens when you let those spirits in. When you give
Yep.
them, when you come into agreement with them through those crystals, through those psychedelics, you're basically saying,
Yep.
I agree to let you in my life. And
Yep.
that's enough that.
Well, when you give your allegiance to something other than
Yeah.
God, then the authority is there,
Yeah.
right?
You start putting that idolization into something else, it's
Yeah. They have full authority. They can do well, they can enter into your life, and then they can start creating more drama and creating more problems. Then you do other things which gives them more authority. And then eventually this is how people become possessed, or how they become,
oh right.
even if they're not possessed like thoroughly from the inside, a demon can attach itself, can get its claws into you, and it doesn't have to let go. But it is still under God's authority. So the God will only allow them to do what God will allow based on what you have asked for.
Right,
And that's
right,
what
right, right,
people have
right.
to understand. It's like, so, and the devil is constantly saying to you, well, if you just try this, you're going to feel better. If you just do this, it's going to make you feel, if you go this far with it, you haven't gone far enough. And then you realize it just all falls apart, right?
Yeah, and it's never ending. It can never
Yeah,
be satisfied,
right.
100%. Oh man. And um okay. So that kind of covered that a little bit. So yeah, this is where, I start falling apart, again. And I start picking up the cocaine more. I start sneaking out of the apartment. We would be up drinking, and She'd be going to bed at 10, 11 o'clock at night. It'd be a weeknight, I have to go to work
Yep.
the next day. And, she'd ask me to come to bed with her, and I'd be like, no, I'm going to stay up for another hour or two. And, you know, you go to bed, I'd wait a half hour. I'd go grab the rest of the beer in the fridge, and I'd go grab cocaine and hang out with people I had no business to be around. And we would just sit there, just do tons and tons of cocaine to the point where you start to like, for me, I always started to see things like out of the corners of my
Right.
eyes. If I'm up too long on this stuff, it started to kind of, the anxiety first off is another thing that is just ridiculous if you stay up too much on it. But whenever they wanted to call it a night, and this happened many, many, many times, I would just walk on the streets with this bag of cocaine, and I would just look for people, and I would just, "Hey, do you wanna party? Do you wanna party? You wanna I
Right.
got some coke, you wanna party?" A lot of homeless people, and
Of
there was this one
course.
one homeless man that I met. So, I went to this bar, and I parked in a no parking zone, and I didn't know that, and I was already half drunk, driving. I drove drunk constantly. I mean, to me, it was like, "Oh, second nature." I
Yes.
know what I'm doing.
Absolutely. Right.
Nothing bad will happen to me because I've been doing this for 6 years, right? Well, I parked in this no parking zone, and, I go into this bar, get my Coke, whatever, and I come back out, my car's gone. I didn't even I didn't even blink an eye. I just was like, "Alright, well, more of an excuse to stay out here and, you know, do a bunch of crazy
Right.
stuff all night." So I start walking around, and I find this guy, and, he was asking me for money or something. I was like, I don't have any money. I've got some coke though. Do you want to hang out? You want to party?" I just wanted to be around people. I guess I just wanted to hang out with somebody. I just was going through such a hard time. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't care about my life. I didn't think I deserved
Right.
to have anything. I would spend hundreds of dollars on homeless people. We'd go to Walmart late at night, and I would just buy them a bunch of stuff. I mean, I didn't care anymore. I didn't know what to do. And so I find this anyways. I find this guy by the bar, and um, he leads me to this crack house, and we go into this. Well, he goes into this crack house first, and mind you, we walked like 2 or 3 miles on foot to get to this place.
Oh, okay.
And he like, I still think it's kind of crazy. He didn't even ask me like to use any of my stuff that I had. I guess he just was kind of like, "Oh yeah, I'm just gonna use what you've got and turn it into crack." It's like, okay, whatever. I just don't care. I just don't care.
Right.
So we go there, and he's in there for probably an hour with my cocaine that I've got. And at first I was kind of like, oh man, he's just in there doing all of it. And no, he came back and gave me back the rest of the cocaine that I was, that I had in that bag. And he had turned a little bit of it into crack for himself, and we ended up going in there. He brought me inside, and this guy was a very old man that ran this crack house. Very old man. I
Hmm.
remember the first thing he said to me, he looked at me and he's like, "I'm in a gang. I'm in a gang." And I was like, "Okay, okay." I don't know. I think it was supposed to be a threat, like,
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
don't say anything, "I'm in a gang." And I was like, "Okay." And yeah, we got in there, and he made some more of what I had into crack, and he put the pipe in my face, and he wanted me to do it because, I don't know if he thought he wanted to make sure that I was cool, not a cop,
Right.
whatever. And the guy that I was with, he was like, "No, no, no, he's not gonna do any. Don't make him do any of that stuff. You know, he's good. He's cool." And yeah, we left, and we ended up walking back to my apartment. But he's all, doing crack. I've got my
Mhm.
cocaine, and, he's got some beers in his shirt and stuff. And my car's gone. We have no way of getting, anywhere really. But we end up walking like, oh boy, maybe 6 or 7 or so, maybe even more miles back to my apartment so I could take my
Wow.
girlfriend's car. And so I took my girlfriend's car, and it's like 8 o'clock. No, probably maybe 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning. And she's still sleeping. And here I am stumbling through the door with a random homeless person, and we're doing
Wow.
cocaine on the counter, and like she's in the next room sleeping.
Sleeping.
And yeah, and so I take her keys. I'm looking for her keys because I needed to get him back because I obviously I didn't like want her to wake up and see this
Right.
guy that I was with, complete stranger.
Yep.
So I find her spare key and I take her car. And instead of just going and dropping him off, we sit there and party. I mean, we're just sitting there doing cocaine off of her armrest and drinking, driving around for another 4 or 5 hours. Usually for me, it would last all night up until about noon the next day. That's when I would get this massive wave. When I started to come down, I would get this massive wave of guilt and shame that would come over me. There was
Oh.
times where I would get like so I mean so depressed and so feel so guilty. Like those suicidal thoughts would come back. V. And the hangover too, like, I wouldn't be able to
Oh.
eat for days after doing that stuff 'cause the the stress it puts your body under too is insane. And, I remember my throat would get real swollen from the drip of the cocaine. It would, like, mess with my
Oh.
my throat, so I couldn't it hurt to eat sometimes. It was raw,
Wow.
and, yeah, I would
Okay.
just be so hungover and miserable, miserable. And, yeah, she kicked me out of the apartment a couple times, and I'm full bore into this. I don't know how to get myself out of it. Like, I end up having to stay at my mom's for a while, and she was pretty aware of the situation.
Right. Okay.
And I just I keep doing. I come. He ends up leaving, moving back to Denver, Colorado, because we broke up, and I'm a mess. I need to figure my stuff out here, And I was a
Right.
little bit bitter too because there was a lot of things there was a lot that she was going through and I was there for her. And it seemed like she just packed up her bags and left the second that you know, and that was really difficult for me to deal with too. And she just basically ghosted me for a couple months, after she left, I didn't hear from her for a couple months. And absolutely destroyed me. Absolutely, because if I love somebody, like, I put everything that I've got into that person, you know?
Right.
I'm not one to shy
Yep.
away from anybody. If you've got any kind of problems, I'm not gonna shy away
Right.
from you because I know exactly what it feels like to be put on this, put on the back burner and just, like, left there. And I
Well, you
just
you know what it feels like when you're looking for love and you don't get it in return. You know how it feels. It's like
yeah,
you want people in your life to love you because as they should, and when you
yeah,
don't get that, that's very scarring. Yeah.
yeah. It
Yeah.
really is. And again, it
Yeah.
starts playing on your mind. It's like, "Well, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with
Right.
me?" When there's nothing wrong with you. It's just the way that person is. I still don't
Well,
know.
and
Genuinely
that's
don't know.
why if you watch some of my videos, you'll see how the Lord how the Lord has spoken to me about this, and I've talked about it.
Yes.
So he literally tells me what's going on or what I need to do, and then I put it on YouTube. And some of them are well, a lot of them are about forgiveness and
Mhm.
loving one another. And it's so important because so what the Lord showed me is that if there's someone that I like am bitter against, or I'm starting to have these seeds of like anger against someone, the Lord will remind me every time. And I've talked about this. It says, if you could see what that person went through when they were
Mm.
younger, you would not feel this way. And I thought to myself, you are absolutely right. I really should just learn to just stop going with the instinct is the flesh, right? The flesh wants to be
Yeah.
bitter and angry. And I have to work at being at this in the spirit, be like, okay, no, I know this is just temporary. It's all going to be in the past. I just got to let it go. I've got to forgive. And when something really bad happens or whatever, and I from other people, not just myself, but other people that I've met
Mhm.
who say this particular situation was so devastating, I don't know how to forgive them. And then the Lord says to me, He told me this. He said, if you come to me with that, if you say to me, I'm trying, but I don't know how in the world I'm ever going to be able to forgive this person, but I have the will inside me to want to because you
Yeah.
asked me to. Jesus says, I can use that. I will use that and then I will heal you. I will make it happen. And that's taking it away from us and putting it back on him, right? Which is really
Amen.
what he wants. Yeah. But
Amen.
that's how that progresses. That's how you get from bitterness to complete forgiveness. So there must have been there must have been some sort of like call. The Lord must have been drawing you in at some point here. Like,
Yes. Yeah, actually. So at this point, um, so I currently I live with my grandparents. I also back then, before I moved to Denver, Colorado, lived with him as well. So I'll start there.
okay,
Um,
okay,
I'm working and I'm just kind of doing my thing. I work as I'm an auto body man. I know I work on semis as well.
okay,
And so I'm doing that and I'm still struggling with the same thing. I'm out of the apartment, I'm in with my grandparents. And again, I'm even more ashamed because I'm still going out here partying and doing a bunch of cocaine, coming
right,
in, the next morning to my grandparents, looking like I just got beat in the face with a bat because my face is so swollen from all the coke. I'm just this,
right,
brutal. And even they were like, "You must have some allergic reaction to this alcohol or something." Because I would tell them like, "Hey, I'm gonna go drink with my buddies and stay at their house tonight." But little did they know
right,
I was actually out there on a bender. You
right.
know, they're like, "You
Yep,
look like you
yep,
shouldn't be drinking anymore."
yep,
Basically, and I'm like, "Oh,
yep,
yeah, I know, right? I don't. If only I knew how to stop. I just don't know how to stop."
right.
So I move out to Colorado because that's my ex told me about how beautiful it is, beautiful the people are, and how it's just I just was looking for a change, and I wanted to make that change, and I wanted to get sober. I wanted to get clean. So instead of admitting myself, I decided, you know what, I'm gonna move there, and I did that, and in the heart of the city, and oh boy, when I moved there, when I say that's where everything hit the fan, everything hit the fan. I was in complete freedom there. I could do whatever I wanted.
Right,
And I got a job and my oh boy, first 2 weeks there was the first relapse that I had. And I remember I had a hard day at work. It was like my second or third day at work at this new job. I went and got 2 Coors Tall Boys and I was doing it to unwind and to relax. And there was a bar directly across from my apartment, like a brewery, or sorry, it was a brewery. They made beer there,
right, right,
and I went over there. I had these 2 tall boys, and I'm like, all right, all right. I remember like audibly having to tell myself, "You're not gonna go to this bar. You're not gonna go out and start running around the city of Denver, which you have
right.
absolutely no business doing. You don't know anybody here. You're not gonna do it. If something happens to you, you are done. You are
You're done.
done for."
Yeah,
And I kind of hid this from my parents pretty well, besides my mom. I guess she knew, but. um, Yeah, that's not what I did. I ended up breaking in or caving in and going to that bar, and then I'm, running around the streets again. No, wait. Okay. Yeah. I was running around the streets. Wait a minute. No, me and my ex ended up going out together at this point, actually. I forgot because she was out there. We were still in touch. And me and her ended up going out. And this is where I got that cocaine. So I ended up getting some cocaine out there. And we were in this person's apartment, and she I had told her basically like, "Hey, I'm clean, I'm good, like, I don't do this stuff anymore. I'm okay to drink. Like, I'm not gonna get any more cocaine." So we're
right.
out at these bars, and I come and I run into somebody who's got some, and he gives me some in the bathroom there, and we end up back at his apartment, and we're partying with this guy and some other dudes, and of course, this guy actually sells cocaine, which is
Of
I'm
course.
like, "Oh, this is perfect."
Right.
And so, yeah, she sees me doing that, and then, she kinda storms off and don't talk to her again for a long time. But, yeah, that's when that I kind of went out on another bender and I found some other homeless people, and they ended up smoking meth in my apartment. And this woman that we were with, she went into psychosis. She was not hearing anybody. She was basically just talking to herself. She was like
Right.
hovering over my counter, talking to herself. Um, and like we would try to be like, "Hey, are you okay? You need some water or something?" She
Yeah.
wouldn't respond. She was like
That's
nonstop talking
yeah.
to
And
herself.
that's when the demons step in.
Oh
When they
boy.
have authority over her, they decided they were gonna step in at that point, and they were having a conversation with
100%.
her.
100%. And
Yeah.
she was talking about like the Illuminati. She was talking about her daughter's death. It's talking about all kinds of stuff. And it got to the point like again, so me and this guy decide like, hey, we got to get her out of here, out of your apartment. Like, I'm crashing, and I'm again the big wave of guilt came over me, and I'm like, all my money's gone. I just moved here. All my money's gone. I'm done for.
Yeah.
I'm screwed, and I can't get this woman out of my apartment, and she's like, she's in psychosis. I don't know what to do, and we eventually end up getting her out, and we just kind of have to. We ended up going into a Walmart or something, and that got her out of the car. And then we just kind of hurried back to the car and took back off. I dropped him off at a bus
Right.
station. Never heard from him again. That guilt of knowing, like, oh, these two homeless people again were just smoking meth in my apartment. I was up all night doing cocaine. I called into work, and and I kept telling myself, this is never going to happen again. This is the this is the last time. I don't know how many times I've had to tell myself this at this point. This is the last time I'll ever do this. This will never happen again. No, about 2 weeks later, maybe a month or so later, um, I end up getting drunk, and this is again on a weekday, and I'm running around the city trying to look for cocaine. I've got a whole vial of mushroom capsules that my ex's uncle gave me, and you know, people over in Denver, they're really they look for that alternative kind of plant medicine alternative
Right.
kind of type stuff. So I was looking for somebody just to sell that to get a little bit of money, and somebody to go get more coke. It didn't end up working. I don't think at some point. This is where it gets a little bit blurry for me because at one point I do remember vaguely snorting something, and I don't think that it was coke. Almost 110% sure that it was
Ah,
some kind of, I don't know what it was, but I basically like just blacked out. Hammered drunk. I remember being in the heart of Denver looking for my car. I lost my car in the city at this point, and I'm with a bunch of homeless people. And this guy that I met, I was on his bike, and this is where everything changes. And this is where I am so grateful for everything. I fell off of this bike face first and smashed my head onto the road, or I hit it on a curb. I don't remember which way, but basically, I bit a huge hole inside of my mouth. I
mhm.
s I had a big laceration under my chin right here on above my eyebrow, and then right here as well. I'm surprised I didn't break any teeth, actually. I'm really surprised because I
I
bit
was
a
gonna
massive
say,
hole
wow.
in my
Yeah.
cheek, and it had to get stitched up, like, inside and everything. Lost and so I got up from that, and I mean, the blood's just gushing out of my face, and I was just like, "Oh, no, like, what did I just do?" Go to this, they got sidewalk benches there in Colorado. So I went and I told this guy, he was like, "Oh, are you all right? Are you all right?" Like, "Yeah, I just need to sit down for a second." I sit down and I lose consciousness, and this I'm still trying to figure this out. I do believe that this was from the Lord showing me where I was going, where I was
Yeah.
heading. I continued along this path. I remember falling and looking all around me
Okay, so hold
was
let's just 1 second, I'm gonna back you up a
Mhm.
second.
Yeah.
So you grabbed a bike to take off or whatever. You
Mhm.
lost control, smashed your face. You're
Mhm.
losing blood. Were you
Mhm.
coming down off of the drugs, or were you still pretty high?
Yeah, no, I was actually starting to come down a little bit, yeah,
Okay. So
it
between
I was mostly blacked out, but I do remember this pretty well for a
Okay.
couple of hours, actually, even before that. I remember walking around the city with my phone. It was on really low battery with this guy, and I was trying to, we were just looking for my car. I remember taking the bus
Right.
back and forth throughout the city. I had no idea where I was. I had no business being out there like that.
No.
I mean,
Exactly. So
absolutely
when you
ridiculous.
sat down, yeah, so you sat down on that bench, you lost consciousness, and then all of a sudden you
Mhm.
felt like you were falling down.
Yeah, it felt like I was falling down or like falling. I don't know. I guess I was just falling, and I remember being able to like kind of look around, and it was again how it's described, outer darkness. You know,
Yeah.
like I could see my body, I guess, but it was just everywhere you looked there. It was just so dark, and I remember I got to a certain point where I started to see like the tops of these castles, almost. Um, they looked like castles, and there were these
Right.
like kind of weird looking demon things that were hugging the tops of these castles, and they were just like looking at me. Some were screaming. It was bizarre. I don't know if that was me thinking of that, if but I remember it pretty vividly, and I was pretty messed up. And for me to be able to remember that, you know being drunk and also injured, very badly injured,
Right.
speaks to me. you know
No,
like I
you were definitely taken out of your body and you
Yeah.
were sent to the kingdom of darkness.
Yeah.
That's what you were
Mhm.
seeing. Yeah,
Yeah,
for
and it
sure.
was
100%.
yeah, that's what I think too, yeah, one for sure. Um, and I remember waking up and there was people gathered around me because, I mean, I'm out in the public, dude's bleeding out on this sidewalk bench, and he's covered in his own urine. You know, and these paramedics were there, and they picked me up and put me on the sidewalk, and they were like, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And I remember from my soul, I was just like pleading for help. I was just pleading for help. And I didn't care if it was spiritual, I didn't care if it was physical help. I needed help. I needed help. Otherwise, I was going to end up dead. And I knew it.
Right.
I knew I was going to end up dead. And this is why I say this is also important, because I was not able to stop this myself. Because from that moment forward, so hold on. Okay, let me not get too. I get a little bit amped up around this point because when Jesus steps in. So
Right. Right.
I I end up going and getting hospitalized from 10 o'clock in the morning all the way to 12 o'clock that night. And I end up getting, when I get released, I'm still in the same blood soaked clothes and, urine covered pants. And I'm walking around the city again. It's midnight, looking for my car. And on my phone, I have a Bluetooth radio in my car. And so my phone kind of pinpoints where I last was on Google Maps with that.
Oh, okay.
And so, for some reason, it was saying that it was in an underground parking garage, and it wasn't anywhere near that. But from this moment on, I remember I got home. I took an Uber home because I had given up on looking for the car. And I got home and I looked in the mirror, and boy, there wasn't an emotion to describe. I was so drained. I hadn't eaten in like 2 days. I was severely dehydrated, still covered in blood. They could have at least got the dry
Right.
blood off me. They didn't do that. Um, and I was walking inside. They gave me a bag from the hospital with a big bunch of pamphlets telling me about addiction, alcohol abuse, and substance abuse, and they also gave me a um, bottle of Narcan. And I looked at that bottle of Narcan, and I was like, I never thought I would be here. I never thought I would be to this point where
Right.
I am walking out of the hospital with Narcan. And that was defeating for sure. And I remember, again, like this is a weekday, and I'm still very new to this job. And I called
Right.
into work, and I sent my boss a picture of my face, and I just told him that I got into an accident, that I wasn't going to be able to come into work for a week. And I mean, I'm a week into this job, and my boss was so
Right.
cool. He's like, "Oh man, hey, just take care of yourself. Don't worry about it. It's okay, okay."
Right.
And yeah, again, my throat is just like all raw, and I can't eat for days, and I just feel awful.
Right.
that moment on, I never touched alcohol or cocaine again. And
Wow.
110%. So the reason why I say that this is all because of Jesus was when I cried out for help. I do 110% believe it was such a cry that I think that's when Jesus Christ was able to intervene. I think that was when I gave him the authority to do that. That's
Right.
what I believe. And go fast forward about 4 months later. Now this was in August when this
Can I
whole
can
thing
I
kind of
can I ask you one quick question?
Yeah, of course.
When you were going down to hell,
Mhm.
did you like see anything else? Did you end up anywhere?
No. Mm-mm.
No, okay.
Yeah, not
Okay.
that I remember. Yeah, I just remember
Okay.
falling and just seeing these castles, like, kinda flying by me, basically, and then I just remember being woken up. But yeah,
Wow.
that's it.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. No,
Yeah.
that's still that's enough to scare you.
Yeah, I didn't know. I at that point, I wasn't really able to really put it together too much. I didn't really think much of it, to be honest with you. But,
Right. Right.
fast forward to December that year, I started feeling this pull, and, like, I was searching for something to fill that hole again that, I
Mhm.
want something to worship, almost kinda like I don't know how to explain it. We all know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And I have a buddy who actually, was a Christian, and he, was telling me, he's like, "You know, it sounds like God." And I was like, "Yeah, I think it's God. I think God's reaching out to me." And he's like, "Go for it. Oh, You know, seek him." And, I kinda did. I were just, like, kinda vaguely thinking about it throughout my workday, thinking about God and just, like, you know, kind of trying to rationalize it in my mind, trying to find the logic in it and with myself, I guess. And that's when I started to get all of these Christian YouTube shorts on my phone out of nowhere.
Hmm.
All these Christian videos just started to pop up, and the one thing, it's like he knew exactly what was gonna get my attention. He gave me a bunch of these videos about what biblically accurate angels look like, and that just threw me, like, I don't know what it is. I've always been obsessed with, like, the Paris catacombs, and just
Oh,
very,
okay.
very kind of weird things like that. And I guess seeing what these biblically accurate angels look like, it added more realness to it. Oh, it's so they're not just people with wings, flying around, and they're not
Right.
just, you know. So I guess it added more realness to me, and that's when I kind of started to and then I saw, oh, it was an AI image of what God looks like from the Bible, or what they say he would look like, on the throne with, his face is just glory, and it's radiating
Right.
like the sun. And I was like, that's really cool. Okay, this book sounds kind of cool to read, honestly. And but as soon as I start to seek God, that's when my life starts to completely fall apart. And um I start kind of seeking him. I don't remember entirely how. I remember talking to my mom about him. I remember telling my mom, like, "Hey, I think I'm gonna kinda start looking for God," you know? She was excited about that. Um, but I do remember as soon as I did, everything in my life started to fall apart again, and it wasn't my doing, it was all Satan. Satan was pretty pissed off about it, which is great.
Right.
So I started to lose work. I was working commission, as a body man on semis. I was working commission. I started to lose work. I still owe those guys money for rent. Like that apartment complex, I got back owed a lot of money, and they were trying to evict me. My entire apartment floor started to flood. One of the water main pipes broke, and water was pouring out of the light fixtures while they were still on. And it was like 11 o'clock at night, and you've seen the pictures, I'm sure, on from that video. I don't know if you remember.
Mm.
But
Mhm.
that was nuts. Going out there, we could have been electrocuted, in a heartbeat, because the water was pouring out of these fixtures.
Yeah.
And it got into my apartment, so we had the disaster relief had to come, tear apart the hallway, tear apart parts of my apartment, and I'm just like, this is weird. People in and out of my apartment, whatever. Um, Now I don't think I brought this part up. I ended up finding my car from, that bender that I was on. 4 days later, it was parked the wrong way up a one-way, and the reason I found it was because I was with somebody at some point that night, and I had their address in my phone, and so I basically just took an Uber to that address, and I have a remote start, and I was
Oh,
sitting
yes.
there hitting the remote start, trying to listen to it. It's a big block V8, so it's, you can hear it. It's loud,
Right.
and so, yeah, found it. It was dusty, and, by the grace of God, nothing was wrong with it. Nobody tried to break into it. Nobody put a ticket on the windshield being parked the wrong way up a one-way. It was all dusty,
Wow.
which is weird, but yeah, it
Yeah.
was spotless. It was spotless. Nobody touched it, nothing. And I remember getting into my car and there were these mushroom capsules just like spilled all over the seats. Like I don't know. I don't know. My life was a mess. And so, anyways, I parking in this gated parking garage underneath the apartment building, and I remember leaving for work one morning, and I noticed my car doors open, and a bunch of my papers were thrown on the parking garage floor. And instantly, in my heart sank. I knew exactly what happened. Somebody broke into my car, and I'm in a gated parking garage. I'm paying like $100 a month for it, and I look in my car and they had ripped my dash out. They stole my radio. They took a screwdriver and jammed it into my ignition, completely screwed my ignition up, and they cut my anti-theft on my car. So even if I could get my car to start with the remote start, it wouldn't stay started because the anti-theft
Right.
would kick on, and the computer in the car, it would just shut itself off. If I don't have a car, I can't get to work. If I can't get to work, and so something that I didn't
Yeah.
mention in that testimony video was actually kind of how this all happened. Um, I went and talked to the apartment manager, and he couldn't do anything for me because technically they list that parking garage as, like, off premises, even though it's connected to the building, so that's how they avoid
Right.
lawsuits, and, I was bawling my eyes out in that parking garage. I'm not gonna lie, I knew it was over. I knew that it was, I was gonna have to leave. I was gonna have to come back to Iowa where all the addiction started, and, I was bawling my eyes out, and I went back upstairs to my apartment. And I was crying for like 2 hours straight, and I eventually just got on my knees, and I was just like, "Lord, if you're here, help me. If you're really here, help me." And this peace came over me, and I don't know if that was me fully giving my life to him at that point, but this peace came over me that surpasses all understanding, and I
Yes.
just stopped crying, and I called my dad, I'm like, "Hey, I'm done here." Just so calm, so calm. I'm like, "I'm done." And my dad came that day and with a U-Haul and, a car hauler trailer and picked me up, uh, came back here to Iowa.
Wow.
And this bed right here is where I believe I gave my life to Jesus Christ, where I fully confessed with my mouth and I fully believe that he was Lord and gave my life to him 100%.
Wow.
And
Wow.
um yeah, there's probably quite a few gaps in there, But I'm not, I'm still pretty fresh at on this story. It's
Yeah, no, it's but still, I mean, it's amazing how the Lord will find you exactly where you are. Like whenever you cry out to him, it doesn't matter.
mhm.
Um, it doesn't matter if you cry out to him in whatever situation. He's faithful enough to come after you. He leaves the 99 to
Amen.
go after the one, right?
Amen. Amen.
And yeah. So did you have this like after that happened, did you find you really wanted to read the Bible?
Yeah, well, so I wanted to, but for some reason in my head, I was like, "Oh, this is all fake. It's been rewritten." This is all just like,
Ah,
I'm not gonna deal with it. And then like, I really kind of, one day I ended up breaking down and I ended up reading it. And my buddy actually gave me this out in Colorado, so means a lot to me. And I was like, you know what,
oh,
I'm gonna
okay.
read it. If I'm gonna read it, I'm gonna read it. And I started reading it, and I just could feel it. I don't know. I'm not entirely sure. But I know I just knew as soon as I started to read it, I'm like, "Oh, this is God's word.
This is
This is the
truth.
living, this is truth."
Yeah.
He
And
yeah.
what I know now, I didn't know then either. Like when it all happened to me and I opened it up and began reading, it was like the words would kind of leap off the page.
Mhm.
And I remember later, um, the Lord was describing to me that, because the spirit recognizes the spirit.
Mhm.
So the spirit that was in me was recognizing the word,
Oh, amen.
right? Right.
Amen.
So, and
100%.
that was like a connection. So I was connecting with God. That's what we all do. So we
Yeah.
will all connect with God. And when we are not, when our spirit is dark and the one thing it wants to reject it. So when
Mhm.
we're not full of the Holy Spirit, that book is immediately rejected because Satan will come in and just say, "You don't want anything to do with that. It's fake. It's dumb. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Whatever. There's no real truth there. It's just a bunch of words. You don't need to." And that's why, as soon as I gave my life to Christ, and my spirit was transformed, that book was like a draw. I couldn't let it go.
Yeah.
Right? It was like it was drawing me in, I could not let it go, and the pages would just, like I'd be there for hours and hours, and my wife was like, "You're reading again?"
She can't
And
get you away from it. Give Jesus the
I
break.
I know, give Jesus a break for a while, yeah, um,
Oh, I'm
and
with
because
you.
I'm not a reader, my wife's a reader. She
Right.
reads, like, volumes of like novels, blah blah. And I would never. I always watch TV, watch sports, played games, went out fishing or not. Well, hunting, ATVing, motorbiking, all that kind of stuff, which is what I like to do.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, I was like a bookworm, like this,
Out
for
of nowhere, yeah.
hours, hours,
You're
right?
feeding your soul. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was finally for the first time I was actually, yeah, being fed by God, and that food is what like this how it sustains you is completely different. Like
Yeah.
being fed by the spirit, you could you could be up for hours and hours
Mhm.
and hours. Like you could be up all night when the spirit is leading you and the spirit's being fed. It's like it's like the Lord's version of like caffeine. Like
Oh,
it just
100%.
amps you right up. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why I was asking because it happened, and I hear that it happens to everybody, from what I understand, from
Yeah.
what people I've spoken with. But so, how are you now? Like, are you involved with the church? Are you like hanging out with different people? Yeah,
Yeah, this is another really crazy thing. So, I come back to my grandparents and, I'm getting closer and closer to God, and um, I'm having all these demonic attacks in my sleep and all these beautiful things. Anyways, there's a church, directly I can pretty much see it from where I'm at right now. It's literally walking distance, 30 seconds away from me, and it is a great Baptist church. The pastor or the pastor is great, and, he's very informative. It doesn't feel like he tries to, shy away from the things that people need to hear, which I think there's a lack of,
right,
especially preaching a watered down
right.
gospel, sugar coated gospel.
Yes,
And he does. I don't feel that he does that. But yeah, I am I'm getting a little bit warmed up. I've been in a very
good,
heavy, I guess, season of isolation, over
right.
here. I think it's just time for me to, basically get to know him more, and, I do believe that he is coming back. So I
Well,
think it's just
he
like
is.
him.
He
Yeah,
is coming back. He's coming
yeah,
back really, really soon.
no doubt.
Um, and having said that, um, so first I want to invite you to stick with it, be on the Discord with us if you want.
Mhm.
But if you need anything, like if you want to run anything by me, if you're going through scripture or situations happen to you, I get this a lot from people. A lot of people ask me, so I want to invite you to do the same. So if you want to be part of, like, if we're doing Bible studies or whatever, please be involved if you'd like.
Amen.
You're more than welcome. I'd love to chat with you about whatever it is you're going through, whatever it is you need help with the Lord. If you want answers to things that are going on in your life according to scripture or whatever you need, I'm certainly here. I'm reaching out to let you know that I'm more than happy to help,
I really appreciate that.
whether it's on Discord or whatever. But the other thing too is that I want you to know this because the Lord has been speaking to me as we've been talking. And one of the things he just kind of mentioned was, you have a purpose. and your purpose was designed from the very, very beginning. So he never left. He was always with you. And the devil knew that your purpose was very intentional, and it was designed. So he tried to get you off course very early for you to not step into your purpose. Well,
Amen.
now the Lord went after you and made sure that you are going to be doing your purpose. And it's a very specific purpose. It's special. When he reveals to you what it is, take heart to it, take it to heart, and stay in that lane, whatever that is, and stick with it. Because
Mhm.
your personality and who you are was created specifically for right now. So this moment is
Amen.
yours, like going forward. So keep searching him. The biggest thing is that you need to, yeah, and he's saying the same thing. You need to develop your relationship with him and become more mature that way. But it's going to take some time.
Mhm.
But it starts with, and if you watched, and the Lord's saying, watch some of the videos that I've put out.
Yeah, actually, I'm going
There's
to.
quite a few. Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm not bragging for me. This has nothing to do with me. It's all the Lord. Um, it's His words, and I just tell people what He's saying. But the biggest thing, and we talk about this a lot. The team and the people on Discord and the people in the YouTube, the family talk about this a lot. Like when you're developing a relationship, the biggest thing you have to do is develop your prayer life
Mhm.
and your scripture reading. So it's an incredible base. The base for your building on your building block to move on with the Lord, what He wants you to do. The first thing
Mhm.
you have to do is get yourself into a prayer routine. And what I do and what the Lord showed me is like first thing in the morning before I do anything else,
Yes.
start praying with the Lord. Because what happens is that you're now developing a relationship with Jesus where it's like He sets you on your path that day.
Mhm.
And some people will pray later in the day or at night, and that's fine too. But when He has a specific plan for you in your relationship to be fostered and brought up, it needs to start every morning. It
Amen.
can't be delayed. Like, so
Amen.
I've had to get up like an hour earlier than I normally would have. And this started
Mhm.
many, many years ago, and I still do it to this day. I get up an extra hour early to spend that time with the Lord, and you will watch your life be transformed because of it.
Yes.
Like a lot of
Yes.
things that are going on in your life, He's going to start speaking to you in the morning and sending it on. He sets your path right because
Mhm.
you're going to step into your purpose, but you can't do that unless you understand, um, like your heart posture.
Right.
One of Tanya said that on our comments. So the heart posture is you got to get your heart ready to go for the day,
Mhm.
and then that sets you off on the encounters you're going to have that day, or the things He wants you to see that day or understand. If you don't start your day off that way, you can miss it. And then there's
Yes.
a setback, and then He's got to sort of reset and then do it again and then again and again. Now He's faithful, He will always reset. But
Mhm.
if you get yourself in the pattern of prayer and reading scripture and making it like your priority, that sets
Mhm.
the foundation for everything else He wants to do for you.
Right.
So that's the advice I'm going to give you. That's what He's basically telling me to say to you. So
Yeah.
go that route and watch how He completely like sets your life on that path. And you just all you got to do is walk it.
Yeah, that's actually, so, he's already kind of displayed that, in a way, with ministry, basically spreading his word online, for the most part. Um, trying to help in any way, shape, or form that I possibly can. And
Yeah.
just spreading the gospel in these last days is a big thing that he really, really wants me to do. And that's another thing, it's um, how to tell when he's calling you and telling you to do something. The doubt that we can face can just be,
Yeah.
it's seriously, if he tells you to do something, he wants you to act now and he wants you to do it. you
Yeah.
know it's
No,
just how to discern.
absolutely.
Hmm.
Yes. Yes. So, and then that will also help develop your ability to hear Him clearly,
Hmm.
right? Starting off first thing in the morning,
100%.
you're fresh.
Yeah.
You'll start hearing how his voice plays when you like, because as you start praying, I mean, really, it's not really not a one-way conversation all the time.
Mhm.
It is a two-way conversation. You just have to be willing to hear it and
Yeah.
allow that to kind of flow. And,
Amen.
yeah, so this was fantastic. I thoroughly enjoyed listening to your testimony.
I felt
I
so
mean, it's
calm here
such
with you.
such a
Yeah.
redemption story. Yeah, yeah. Um, I, if you could go over on Discord after this is done, I know people will have a question for you, guaranteed.
Yeah. My headphones are getting ready to die. I don't know. I mean,
Okay?
I guess I could just
Okay.
do it,
Well, it doesn't
you
have to be
know?
like this time, but if you ever introduce yourself on the introduction page, and then from there,
Yeah.
people will see you there, and then that's how the conversation kind of starts. And if
Oh,
you're not sure,
amen.
just
Yeah.
ask us on Discord,
Yeah,
and
I'll
we'll
get in
walk you
touch
through
with
it.
you a little bit more
Yeah,
too.
sure.
And I again,
Yeah,
I really appreciate this. This is all glory to the Lord
no
Jesus
problem.
Christ. None of it's
Yes,
me.
it is.
And
All glory to
yeah,
God for sure. Yeah.
amen.
God bless you. Thanks for coming on, and
God
we'll
bless you too.
talk to you on Discord. Okay, brother. See you
All
later.
right. Later.
Well, that's it. Um, that was an amazing story. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I look forward to talking to Zach more often on Discord. If you want to come over, please come on over. And you know, as these stories sort of come out and people talk about these things, there is only one way to fill that void and to fill that hole in your life. It's through Jesus. He's the way, the truth, and life. He says, no one can come to the Father but through me. But not only that, but he loves you so much, he's willing to do all these things to get you back. And he's willing to find you right where you're at. Doesn't matter what you're doing or what you're into. Um, you know, he will find you and he will take you exactly like you are. And then he will transform you to who you're supposed to be. So, yeah, I hope you are blessed as I was. Thank you very much for watching. I think I'm going to end the live now. We'll see you over in Discord, and if I don't see you at Discord, I'll see you in the next video. And God bless you. Shalom.